one who has a very powerful story, Eddie Alvarado. He'll be talking about his trials and the things that he's been through. And today we hope to inspire you that no matter what you've gone through, that you know there is light at the end of the tunnel and that you can accomplish anything that you put your mind to. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to my special guest.
Well, everybody out here watching today, I want to say hello, number one. And I am very honored to be here with you on your first show as your guest. God bless you and all the wonderful things that you're doing.
Thank you.
What would you like from me today? Let's go. What would you want to get out of pop today?
So before we talk about, the trials that you've been through, tell us what you currently do.
I'm currently doing a lot. My life went from doing a little bit of open mic poetry to learning that it is a gift and an art that should be respected and spread with a good message. It went from learning that that message could be so huge and impactful. And I've just been blessed. I'm a CEO of my own company. I am an owner of my own radio show. I am an art director. I am a full-time mentor. I am a violence interrupter. God's put me in a great situation to do a lot of things with just poetry.
So before you became all of these amazing things, you were sent away. Do you want to talk about that?
Prison. The full exclusive. I was a knucklehead. I took a trip, 19 and a half years, prison. I grew up in the streets of Chicago, rough background. I think that's why I give back so hard now. I want to see my community. I wanted a better place. I'm back in the place that sent me away for 19 and a half years. But I recognize that the place wasn't that sent me away. It was what I was doing in that environment, which was gangbanging, causing ruckus, uneducated, no purpose, no direction, no real guidance. And I work with a lot of the same kids that have no guidance as some of the kids that even have guidance. Mm-hmm. But that's the story of my life as far as before entertainment, show business, and all this other stuff that I'm blessed to be doing now. I was a kid, I was uneducated, I took a trip for doing some uneducated, ignorant stuff. My crime and things I did that harsh time for it's all public record. I committed an armed robbery. Nobody got hurt. They gave me a lot of time. It was the early 90s, political time. I kept my mouth shut. And for that reason, I got a lot of time.
Do you regret what you did?
Of course, absolutely. I don't think that I was living a positive life. I know a lot of that my circumstances were just what a kid does when he's living in the streets. Mm-hmm. And he's getting high and he's doing things that a lot of youngsters do. I'm not at all proud of the test, but I am proud of the testimony.
Being away for 19 years is a long time. During that time, how did you find hope?
I think I went in with hope. I just was a dark kid that was gloomy. I had no real love other than my mom, and she was in an abusive relationship that her life was very dark at the time. So there was not a lot of light really illuminating back then until I hit that dark, dark place in life that leaves you no choice but to find that illuminated light inside you.
And when you found that light, do you remember that time?
The light. Well, I'll tell you this. Well, I was incarcerated. I suffered something that a lot of people do not know about Eddie Alvarado. A lot of family members do, a lot of guys that were away with me. I suffered something called an aneurysm. I went through some troubled times, but I really, really went under. I was in a coma for 21 days.
Wow.
During them 21 days in a coma, I seen my worst nightmare, which was Pop has always been kind of afraid of drowning because I just don't know how to swim. So all I remember was swimming in the middle of the ocean somewhere for days in and days out, just fighting and fighting to break surface because I seen light. I fought somewhere in a nightmare, and I broke surface finally one day, as weird as it may sound, and I was gasping for air when I finally came out of my coma to find my mama at the hospital bed while I was kind of under and stuff. And I remember having to learn to talk again, walk again. My whole neurological system was shut down. But I actually woke up from that stuff, and that's kind of where I also found poetry. I did a lot of therapeutic writings. I got to discover another part of myself that wanted peace. I started to become a young man, more matured, more seasoned. And I started finding light and purpose.
What would you say your purpose is today?
That's a two-part question. In business or just in life?
Both.
In business, it's to get the job done. I have an ability to bring people together. I have an ability to communicate with people and bring the right message to the right people. And that's my job, to create, to make stuff happen, and just to get it popping. My job in life is to be a peacemaker, to be an educator, to be a guru, to teach. Because in this life, I feel we will be a stronger nature. I mean, we will be stronger with nature if we become one with nature, and we all become, in this world that we live in today. We live in Chicago, tough city. No one wants to support, no one wants to teach each other anything. But you still do have some organizations who are fighting. You still have some old school people in Chicago. You still have some old school businesses that still fight for that unified moral character and message that, we try to get across. That's all I got as far as,
You talk about your mom a lot, having worked with you, Live Out Loud charity being partnered with both sides of the park. We'll touch on that. You say that your mom is the leading force in your life, right? Can you talk about your mom and her importance to you?
I love you, Mommy. Even though you probably don't watch this station yet, it's
she will now.
Yes. My mom came to this country in the 70s. No English at all. She went to the west side of Chicago. She had me in New York, first in Brooklyn, New York. We stayed there very short, about 2 years, came straight to Humboldt Park, Chicago. But she went straight to work at a high school. She worked for about 40 years, 30-something years for the Chicago public school system. She was a little lunch lady. She made the little butter cookies. But she knew no English. And they put her right on the west side of Chicago, and she made it. She got on the CTA every day. Wow. She learned how to get with the brothers and the sisters of the west side, and they taught her English. And no matter what, through the tears, the sacrifice of coming from another country, not knowing how to drive, being discriminated against just for not speaking the language, from watching her and her trials and becoming her own business owner. She bought a little Ma's and Pa's store while she worked at the Chicago public school. She bought a car lot afterwards. So she showed me how to be a driving, independent workforce.
That's absolutely beautiful. That's amazing.
She still speaks a little broken up English. But she speaks English.
So you go by Pop. Tell us what that stands for.
Pop is just Prince of Pain. It's an artist name. Little story with that. I said, I'm going to do poetry. I like poetry. I'm going to write poetry. I'm going to write a book. So my first piece was Internal. That was the name of it. And And I said, I'm just doing this as fun. I'm going to write poetry just because it makes me feel good. So my piece first one was called Internal, and I wanted to describe everything I had inside. But then after I seen I can write a piece or two, I was like, I need a little artist name, or the book needs a name. So one night in my cell in prison, I was listening to Sherrie, her song, King of Sorrow. And I was writing, and I got creative. She did a remix with Tupac, where it's the King of Sorrow. And I said, well, you got the drama queen. You got the King of Sorrow. You're looking at the Prince of Pain. That's where that came about. So my name is Eddie Alvarado. My artist poetry, spoken word artist name is the Prince of Pain. Everybody started calling me Pop.
So through the pain that you've experienced in life, you've been able to express it through poetry. How do you think that's affected you and others?
Poetry itself affected me because it let me go and touch just different shades of my mahogany that I never thought I would even graze. Us as human beings, we stop thinking about stuff. We shut stuff down when we just don't want to deal with it. And we can unconsciously do that for 20 years. But when you sit down and you focus on something, it becomes real. There were times, and my messages before I get to because I almost even forgot the question a second ago, but I do want to stay on a positive show. I got the name that way. Pain helped me tremendously because it helped me discover myself. It was reality that I had just put away for a long time that I just didn't want to make realistic.
Right.
And one message with that is that I wanted to get off real quick is that if you do not deal with reality, you're never going to deal with it. And that's how I dealt with my pain. My pain became real. You know, I started dealing with it in an artistic way. It's touched others. Let me finish. It's touched others because I've showed others that they can creatively express themselves, whether they feel anger, whether they're happy, you can describe it in a creative way.
Absolutely. And I think out of all the ways to be able to express yourself, poetry is such a good, positive outlet rather than turning to violence or drugs or any other means, right?
Absolutely.
So when we get back, we're going to look at Eddie and the positive, or AKA Pop, and the positive things that he's been able to accomplish through his poetry and all the places that he's been able to go. We're really proud to have Eddie on our show, Eddie Alvarado.